Time to wake up. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to this gathering of the Manatee Unitarian Universalist Fellowship for over 60 years. Diversity of faith, race, ethnicity, and sexual and gender identity have been honored by people of courage and vision. We are a covenanted community bound together by our belief in freedom of worship, love, and respect. If you are visiting with us this morning, we welcome you as our guests and extend an invitation for you to join us for refreshments and conversation after the service in our social room, which is right through those doors to your right. Barbara?
To know this song. Hora v'simcha, Shabbat menucha, Yom Zeh Yisrael, Hora v'simcha, Shabbat menucha, Shabbat menucha, Shabbat menucha, Shabbat menucha, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat menucha. Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero, a sage came to our aid. Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero, a sage came to our aid. Shema, at this time in years of yore, all together just and once before. Peace we wish, for peace and justice too. All together let's sing you and me. Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero, a sage came to our aid. Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero, a sage came to our aid. We can clap.
In case you're wondering, that was Deborah Bard, who is the wife of our speaker, Rabbi Michael Sternfield.
No sound.
No sound. Tom, can we get sound? Put the speaker up to my mouth. Okay. That was Deborah Bard, Cantor Deborah Bard, wife of our speaker today, Rabbi Michael Sternfield. Beautiful voice, huh? And she's going to be singing a few more times during the service. It's time to light our chalice. Corey, if you would come forward. If you would join me in the chalice lighting words that are printed in your order of service. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together. We bid you welcome, who come with weary spirit, seeking rest, who come with troubles that are too much with you, who come hurt and afraid. We bid you welcome, who come with hope in your heart, who come with anticipation in your step, who come proud and joyous. We bid you welcome, who are seekers of a new faith, who come to probe and explore, who come to learn. We bid you welcome, who enter this hall as a homecoming, who have found here room for your spirit, who find in this people a family. Whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are on your journey, we bid you welcome. Our opening hymn this morning is number 219, O Hear My People, which is in your large gray hymnal. Please stand if you can and join us in singing. If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there is to be peace in the nations, if there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. If there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. If there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. Cantor Bard will now give us another song. Yes.
I am short. Carmela, tumba, 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 tum, tumba, 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 tum, tumba, 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 tum, tumba, 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 tum. Nale min hamid is an old Israeli tune, actually probably Yemenite in origin. And it's a beautiful way of entering into community and taking breath and lifting ourselves up. It speaks specifically and historically in the land of Israel of the Chalutzim, the early pioneers of the land, and their movement la'alod, na'aleh, upward. It's a song of ascension. Going upward, na'aleh min hamidbar, let us go up from the wilderness, the desert, to Har Carmel, to the Mount Carmel, the northern part of the land. So it speaks both about the hopefulness of building the land and a home for all people, and the pioneering spirit, faith, and also the aspiration for all of us, by extension, to rise from a Bamidbar, a wilderness place that we might find ourselves in, spiritually, or even physically, or in our neighborhoods or in our world, a wandering place. And yes, let us rise to our better selves and rise up together to that high place, that higher place. Will we get there? We don't know. Moses didn't get there to the promised land in the narrative of Torah, but it is the forward movement and the process of ascension and going to the higher place, becoming our better selves. HaKarmela. And you so kindly prepared song sheets, so we will do one more song together. And this is a song of welcome, of community, of biyachad, of unity, and says simply, and it's from Book of Psalms, chapter 33, but way transcends Book of Psalms. And it says, Hine, it's a great Hebrew word, Hine, behold, be alert, know, be aware. Matov, how good, how truly good it is for us to be together, biyachad, as one. Echad means one in Hebrew, biyachad, as one people. If we can't love our neighbor as ourselves, let us at least try to be as one and have respect. So here is the Hine Matov, and you should have it there on your sheet towards the bottom of the page. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד. This is a הנה מה טוב prelude, first me. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הללויה, הללויה, שבת אחים גם שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד. And now your turn. But a different melody. That was an Israeli tune. A much later composition than the first tune that we heard, which was folkish. And this has, that tune, by the way, has in it, bum, bum, ba, ba, hallelujah. It's a dance rhythm, so it's a hora. It's a later period. Shevet achim gam yachad. And this Hine Matov is meant for communal singing to open a service, to conclude, or just whenever we're together. And it goes like this. You might know it on the piano. I don't know. Do you know this Hine Matov?
I haven't looked to see.
Not to put you on the spot, but let me say the words for you. Hine, repeat. Ma, tov. Put that together. Hine ma tov. Hine ma tov. Behold, ma, how, what, tov, good it is. Hine ma tov umanayim, and pleasant, shevet achim gam yachad, for us as sisters and brothers to dwell together. Hine ma tov, u manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Shevet achim gam yachad. Do you happen to have the music?
Just what you have here.
That's good. Brilliant. Thank you. So it's 1, 2, 3, a kind of a waltz rhythm, which, by the way, is a very stable rhythm and easy for people to get into. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Let's repeat that. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Contemplative. Hine ma tov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Good. Second section. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. To the beginning. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Keep that going, that same melody. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Once more. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Thank you. Hine ma tov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
Are these yours? I got every word she said, but I don't know what the words meant. Because I didn't have a cheat sheet like you do. I forgot to mention at the start of the service that for those of you who get the monthly newsletter, copies are now available in the social room, so you can pick them up. We have extras if you need an extra. Everyone else should have got it by email. We're pleased today to have Rabbi Sternfield here to speak to us. And he told me before the service started that he changed the title and he changed the content of what he's going to say. And I asked him what the new title was, and he said, oh, something like, I'll make it up. So I'm anxious to hear what he has to say, so let's give him a warm welcome.
Yeah. Well, life is full of little surprises. What can I say? This is my third time having the privilege and pleasure of coming to this congregation and speaking. The first two times I wore a suit, and the last time I looked around and I said, "What's wrong with this picture?" The answer was, "I'm the only one wearing a suit." So here I am. Yes. I don't know how many of you are football fans, but in football sometimes a play develops in an unexpected way. And when that happens, the quarterback changes course and calls what is called an audible. And I decided to call an audible on myself today. I appreciate that you planned with music and even with the service bulletin to help me in the celebration of Israel's 71st. So let's just put it this way, that if you'll invite me back, I'll be happy to speak on Israel's 72nd. But some things are more important, and I think you'll understand why as I get into this. No doubt most of you, or at least many of you, watched both nights of the Democratic presidential debates, if you want to call them that. And I'm not going to get into who won or who lost, nor am I about to dissect any of the candidates' positions that essentially had to be articulated in 1-minute segments, sound bites, if you will. But I must tell you that as I was watching the candidates taking turns auditioning for the nation's highest job, one and only one issue was on my mind, and although it was alluded to, it was not exactly on the stage. It was a photograph that was taken on the bank of the Rio Grande River. And if you know that photo, you know then that you will never forget what you saw. The picture is of a father and daughter, Oscar Ramirez, and his 23-month-old daughter, Angie, face down with his arm around her, both of them having drowned in a desperate attempt to seek asylum in the United States. That is a heartbreaking photograph, sorry to say, one for the ages. I can only hope that in its own way it may be something of a wake-up call to a nation that seems to be asleep at its moral steering wheel on the matter of immigration. And to make matters even worse, it's hard for me to believe this, the current acting director of the Immigration Services, whose name is Ken Cuccinelli, essentially said that it was Mr. Ramirez's own fault that the two of them drowned in the river. Well, only one candidate did choose to address this grave situation in a manner that I found to be especially courageous, and that's why I was led to this topic this morning. And that person is Mayor Pete Buttigieg. I can finally pronounce his name properly. And I'm certainly not here to endorse him as a candidate, but I am here to call attention to what he had to say forcefully and how his words should resonate with anyone who regards himself or herself as a person of faith, as all of you have affirmed this morning. Mayor Buttigieg took direct aim and said it in no soft terms at the hypocrisy of the religious right. Mayor Pete himself is a religious person, and he takes his Christian faith seriously, and yes, he does go to church. And that is precisely why his words resonated with authenticity and with great power. This most interesting and unusual and articulate young man, who almost none of us have even heard of a few months ago, took his moment in the spotlight to call out the evangelical core of the Republican Party for what he described boldly as moral hypocrisy. And it took my breath away when I heard him say those words. For those of you who did not tune it in, let me only say that the conversation and the debate had turned to the matters of the border, where the current administration has continued to separate families seeking asylum and detaining children in facilities that are not fit for human habitation, let alone for small children. In speaking directly and without mincing words, he said, for a party that associates itself with Christianity, to say that God would smile on the division of families at the hands of federal agents, that God would condone putting children in cages, that party, that group, has lost all claim to ever use religious language again. How about that? Regardless of your affiliation, and I make no judgments, it is indisputable that under the current president, conservative Christianity has been in lockstep with the president. Well, white evangelical voters brought him to the White House and continue to give him very high approval ratings no matter what. And also white Catholics were arguably the swing voters that gave Trump the 2016 victories in states such as Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. So Trump has continuously cultivated this image as the president who stands behind religious voters. That's no secret, notwithstanding the fact that there is nothing even vaguely religious about the president himself. The key sentence in Mayor Pete's remarks was so memorable. We should call out hypocrisy when we see it. And he added that the Republican Party and its evangelical supporters cannot use credible religious language following what is going on. And I thought to myself, as I was listening at that moment, it is so clear that what is happening today at the southern borders runs totally contrary to the precepts of Judaism and of Christianity. Why can't the religious right recognize what is so obvious? So obvious. The Christian faith in all of its permutations has at its core the mandate to take care of the underprivileged, the poor, the stranger, the widow, the orphan, the small child. And my religion, Judaism, is every bit as adamant. In order for any person, whether Christian or Jewish or of no particular denomination at all, to be aware of what is going on at our border by our government and is continuing to do at the border and not raise his or her voice, such a person cannot claim to be religious. And if they do, then indeed this is truly hypocrisy, and it should be called out as such, even though I recognize that is a heavily loaded word. And I must go several steps farther, and that is to say that no decent human being, whether they identify with any religion or no religion at all, can possibly look at that horrifying picture of father and daughter who came across in desperation simply to reach safety and not feel intense sorrow. No one claiming to be religious can observe such cruelty being perpetrated on children by our own government, no less, and not feel morally outraged. And no one claiming to be a patriotic American can be aware of what is going on in the name of our own government and not feel ashamed. This has almost nothing to do with secure borders or national sovereignty or political affiliation. It has actually nothing to do with political affiliation. There are plenty of decent men and women in the Republican Party, plenty including many elected officials and appointed government workers. Why are they so silent? I simply cannot understand. Does not one's basic values supersede any political allegiance? It certainly should. Is the religious right so enamored with their political muscle that they are willing to cast a blind eye on what can only be described as cruelty and callousness? This should have nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with basic human decency. If someone can look at that tragic photo or read of the horrendous conditions under which hundreds of frightened children are being forced to live, even as we sit here in comfort this morning, they're doing so through absolutely no fault of their own and not even any knowledge of why they are there. If such people do not feel disgust and shame, then there is something really wrong with that person's moral compass, and perhaps our nation's moral compass as well. This is not the way that America should act, period. And it most definitely is not the way that any person of faith should ever observe what's going on and standing by in silence. What has happened to that inscription on the Statue of Liberty? Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. I lift my lamp beside your golden door. Is this biblically inspired sentence just a lot of feel-good claptrap, or do we mean it? Little children locked in cages, deprived of their parents, parents not knowing if they will ever see their own children ever again. Little kids deprived of basic necessities, toothbrushes, soap, a shower, even diapers for infants, for God's sakes. If there was ever a time for a call to conscience, this has got to be it. Members and leaders of both political parties and of all religions need to stand up to this travesty. And yes, I do put the ball squarely in the court of the evangelical right, who are standing by in self-satisfied silence. Let them support the president and the Republican Party if they wish. Nothing wrong with that. But that does not mean that they have to go along without raising their voices with so much as a concern on this particular issue. As you know, I am not a Christian, let alone an evangelical, but I am certain that such silence does not befit their own community and the religion that they stand by. They seem perfectly capable of making all kinds of noise and lobbying heavily on matters that are of importance to them, opposition to abortion and opposition to LGBTQ equality chief among them. So why are they so mute when it comes to such an overwhelming humanitarian problem? I don't have an answer for that. But I will tell you why, at least in my not so humble opinion, what I feel. The religious right, some time ago, made a deal. This administration has given wide support of the evangelicals, for which they expect unwavering allegiance of the right for their agenda, very little of which has anything to do with religious beliefs. And the deal, as we can see, is holding. The evangelicals will support the president's policies no matter what going into the coming election, and that's okay. He is their guy. And it may very well be the case that concerning many matters that they have been and they will be in sync, and that's okay too. But that does not mean that they should feel obligated to stand by in silence as the government runs roughshod over any semblance of human decency, and most definitely not to stand silently as the very ideals, the guiding values of American democracy and of their own religion are trampled asunder. I realize where I am today and to whom I'm speaking, and in some respects I know that I am preaching to the choir. So aside from grumbling and gnashing our teeth over their silence, their hypocrisy, the question is, what are you going to do? And that is the question with which I want to leave you. What are we going to do? And the answer needs to be crystal clear. We have to make a lot of noise. We need to let our elected officials know that what is going on at the southern border is deeply offensive to us as Americans and as people of faith. And we need to make it clear to stand by in the face of such heartlessness is not what we believe God expects of us. We need to write letters. We need to speak out without hesitation. We need to confront, but with the conviction that this deplorable situation must not stand. Father Michael Flager, a friend and an exceptional priest of a well-known church on the south side of Chicago, delivered what I regard as the most compelling sermon I ever heard from the pulpit of my previous congregation in Chicago. He said to us as follows, and I quote, "I grew up in a home where I was taught to fight for that which I believe in." And he posed the question, so what is worth your fighting for? Someday, he said, each of us will appear before God, and God will ask, where are your scars? Where are your wounds? And if you should say, well, I don't have any, then God will ask, was there nothing that you witnessed that was not worth being wounded for? So much of what we are witnessing should hurt us deeply to the very depths of our souls. So why doesn't it faze us that much? Is it because we have become accustomed to it? God forbid. But this is our challenge, never to permit ourselves to become so unfazed by the suffering of innocence that it causes us no pain. As Father Flager reminded us, every time we drive by the slums, we should not only lock our doors, we should weep. Every time we see a person eating out of a garbage can, it should make us want to weep. Every time we see a homeless person sleeping on the street or in an alleyway, we should feel like weeping. And every time we see such a photo, the one that we all saw last week and that we will never forget, or read of yet another account of inhumane treatment of migrants, refugees, and little children, we should weep and we should make it clear that it is not okay with us. This is not what our religions have taught us. My conscience and our collective conscience tells us that this is as wrong could possibly be, and let us not rest until civility and compassion take precedence over callousness and narrow self-interest. And I leave you with only this thought. Some are guilty, that's for sure. Some are guilty, but all of us are responsible. Thank you.
Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, send these, the tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp, I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you, be acceptable to you. Adonai, my rock, Tzuri v'goali. Give us strength through our words, justice, justice pursue. Let us say, Amen.
It's time now to sing our next hymn, number 159. This is my song. Please stand if you're able. Please be seated. It is. It's time now for the prayers of the community, and I have one joy to share. Please say happy birthday to Richie and AJ. They're all 19 years old. At least in spirit. There are many who aren't able to be with us and might enjoy a mail, call, a phone call, a visit. If you notice someone who is not here today, please make a point to reach out to them this week. Let them know that we are thinking of them and that we care about them. There are many in our community that are going through transitions in their life, moves to assisted living, moves to be closer to family, grieving the loss of a loved one, health concerns that require adjustments to their activities. Please offer a listening ear and other forms of support to our friends and members who are traveling these roads of change. Let us hold these joys and sorrows and those that have not yet found expression in our hearts in a time of silence. May our hearts be inspired to offer support to one another. Let us pause now for a few moments of silent meditation. Amen.
Amen.
Barbara, would you please play?
We have our offertory. I have something.
Give that the offertory yet.
Right. Are you going to do it before I say something or after?
After.
After. Okay. That's what I thought, but my script here says otherwise. We say in our church that the offering is a sacrament of the free church. What we mean by that is that we believe it is a blessing to be able to govern and support our religious community ourselves, to make possible by our generosity everything we dream of, and do to live out our shared values. Every week we lift up the spiritual value of generosity by taking an offering for the ministries of this fellowship. Our plate then, as it is passed among us, becomes filled with the evidence of that generosity. It is our harvest, gathered in every week, for what most nourishes us. The ushers will now come among you to receive the gifts of the congregation. The morning offering will be most gratefully received. Thank you, Barbara. Our closing hymn is number 218 in the gray hymnal, Who Can Say?
I will play this all the way through for the intro. And note that each verse starts with a very short introduction, you see in your hymnal.
Please stand if you're able.
It's Janowski. Say I am free, I am earth, I lay it out. There are none on earth, there are none on earth. A new heart I will give, not stone, but one that springs. A new heart I will give, and one that frees. Each day make us strong, like a tree of life with good fruit. Bless us now, amen. Bless us now, amen. May we now forgive, atone that we may live. May we now forgive, that we may live.
We will now extinguish the chalice. Corey, if you'd please. Please join me in reading the chalice extinguishment words in our service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. The blessing of truth be upon us. The power of love direct us and sustain us. And may the peace of this community preserve our going out and our coming in from this time forth until we meet again. Amen.
Amen.
Please join us for coffee and social time.